Hello again folks, it's Mel from Stocksbridge Guitar Tech and I'm here with part 2 of my Arturia V6 collection review. Now in part 1 I showed you the Analog Lab software and in this part 2, I'm going to look at a few of the individual synthesizers and also the piano module and a couple of the organs. So without further ado, let's jump in and let's have a look at some of these synths. So here we are. I've got the DX7 open. This was a great keyboard back in the day, quite famous for its bass and piano sounds. This is one of the original bass sounds. It's got some really nice basses and pianos. Let's just have a listen at a couple of the sounds. Very nice pad sounds. Again, all these controls here, they're all mappable if you've got a controller keyboard. So I can control these with my sliders on my keyboard to change the sound. Very easy to assign those. And we also have 32 algorithms with this synth. Let's have a listen at this piano. So these are the algorithms here. At the minute you can see this is on 32. So there are 32 in total. And each one is slightly different. Some are vastly different. So we'll go to number 1, which you can see now the operators are stacked in a completely different way. And you can hear that has affected the sound. So depending on the sound, sometimes you can get some brand new sounds just by simply changing this one item in the middle here. This algorithm doesn't work on every sound, but it does work on some. You can get some completely different sounds just by manipulating this algorithm. Also, the original DX7 was only 16 note polyphonic, which means you could only play a maximum of 16 notes at a time on it. But this one, we have the option of going from 1 note, so monophonic, all the way up to 32 notes in some patches. Not in every patch, it depends on the algorithm and the sound. So this one we could have a maximum of 16, which is the same as the original DX7. But with some of the patches you'll find that you can go up to 32 note polyphony. I'll just put that back to where it was. And with all of these synths now in this range, you'll find that you have extra screens with even more editing parameters. So these aren't the only ones. If you click on this down arrow, you will get a much more comprehensive range of controls that you can manipulate, and it's very easy to get new sounds messing around with these. Again, unlike the original synth, which was an absolute pig to program. So here are your 6 operators, and these are the volume levels for each one, and you can also adjust things like the ratio and frequency, the oscillator wave shapes, the filters, the envelopes. I mean, I really like this because you can actually see all the envelopes superimposed on top of one another, and to bring one to the front you just click on it and it brings that operator's envelope to the front, and then you can click and drag with the mouse and completely change the envelope shape. So again, very easy to change things. You have a modulation matrix here, very comprehensive one. Some more envelopes there, and then on the end we have an effects section where we can assign up to 4 effects: compressor, destroyer, overdrive, filter, EQ, reverb, chorus, 2 types of delay, flange and phaser you can choose from. So very, very easy to program. You wouldn't have got effects on the standard hardware version. You also wouldn't have got a sequencer, which you've got on this. It's a very comprehensive sequencer. So let's try and find a sequence. So here we've got a sequence. As you can see, it's running, and this is running over 8 steps. But we can change this from 2 up to 32 steps. And we can even have odd numbers. Now that's not making any sound because there's nothing assigned to the other steps. If we wanted to, we can just very easily draw things in with the mouse, or just drag with the mouse, and now we get now again, that's because I haven't gated it. So you can see again, that's changed the sound, and then if I want to get rid of these, I can just use the eraser tool and we're back to where we started. And that was on 8 steps, so I'll put it back. We can also run this forwards as it is now. We can run it backwards. We can run it forwards and backwards. Or we can run it in random order. So very, very comprehensive and useful sequencer. We've also got an arpeggiator here, which again the original wouldn't have had. So we'll just have a look at a couple more sounds. I'm still in this sequence section here, so we'll just go to all. As you can hear, it's no slouch on the strings front as well. So that's the DX7, great keyboard, great synth, loads of stuff on here that you wouldn't have got in the original hardware version. So let's take a look at something else. We'll have a look at the Synclavier next. Another great sounding synth, this. Again, we've got two extra screens actually on this one. So if we click the down arrow, we get access to all of these parameters that we can change, and again map if we want to. We have 12 partials, individual partials for this synth. You can think of these as like oscillators on a traditional synth, like the DX7 calls them operators, and there are 6 here. Synclavier, we call them partials, and there are 12, which is a massive amount. Old analog synths tended to only have 1, 2 or 3 oscillators, so you can get some very, very complex waveforms out of this keyboard. We also have another screen here, as you can see, very comprehensive. We can load samples into this particular synth. We can either use synth or we can use samples. We have a mixer for each individual partial. We have the envelope section again. Key dynamics, where you can assign key ranges and dynamics. Modulation matrix again, and then master effects section on the end, where we can assign 2 effects. So absolute ton of parameters that you can manipulate on this synth. So let's just have a quick listen at some more sounds. Again, we've got the arpeggiator on this. So some really nice sound effects on this. Loads of sequences again. As you can hear, some nice strings again. If you dig into this synth, you can get some very, very strange sounds. It's a great synth to play around with. So that's the Synclavier we'll move on. We'll have a look at the Oberheim SEM. So this is the SEM. This is probably, out of all of the synthesizers, about the easiest to program, because you just mess around with these rotary controls and switches on here and you can completely change the sounds very, very easily. But again, you can map all of these to a controller keyboard if you've got one, or a controller, MIDI controller. We have the extra screen again, so we have keyboard, follow, an 8-voice programmer, modulation matrix, and effects again. In this instance we have 3 effects that we can assign, up to 3. So let's just have a listen at some of the sounds. And this has some nice sort of brass sounds in it. Synth brass sounds, rather. But again, you can get all manner of sounds from this synth. It has some really bizarre sounds as well. Great for sound effects, things like scoring for videos or films. Very useful synthesizer. Has some very usable sounds already for you to play around with, and some quite bizarre ones as well. So as I said, this is a very, very easy synthesizer to program. You can just mess around with these to your heart's content until you come up with something. As you see, I've just changed 2 or 3 knobs there, and we've gone from sort of an electric piano sound to more like a harpsichord sound. So very easy to program this thing. You can turn the individual effects on and off over here. So at the minute we've got none of these on. If I put the overdrive on, just actually that's not a great sound for overdrive. We'll find something. We've got the chorus on that. That's without, that's with. Is distortion. So as you can hear, these are very subtle effects. Again, depending on the sound, they may affect it drastically or hardly at all. Delay. Great little synth. I really like that one. But you get the gist. As I said, practically all of these synths will have at least 1, if not 2 extra screens where you can get to more parameters. They all have this MIDI DIN icon, so you can control them from a MIDI controller, and you can then save that as a map once you've set them up the way you like. So again, I have my volume linked to my volume control on my keyboard. You can see that move when I move the slider on my keyboard, and then I can save this as a particular map if I wanted to. I can just call it whatever I want, so SEM map 1, and you can make as many of these as you want, as your computer can handle. Very, very easy synth to use. We'll have a look at the piano module. So here's the piano module. We have a ton of different kinds of pianos. So we've got American, Japanese and German grand pianos, pop grand piano, and then we've got some upright pianos, classical, jazz, pop again, piano bar. And we've got some strange ones like this plucked grand, tack another upright, and then this glass grand. So quite a few pianos to out there on a metal grand. Again, we've got the preset browser with all the presets, so we have 89 presets already, and we can just select any one of these. I really like this glass piano, it sounds otherworldly. And again, with this we don't have the, you'll notice up here, we don't have the extra screen down arrow up here, but there are still quite a number of things we can change. Just get back to a regular piano, so we can change the velocity curve. Just click on this and drag it around with the mouse. We can change the microphone placements. As you can see, there are 4 microphones, and we can change how they are stacked, which will subtly change the sound. We can also change the room. This is like it's not a reverb, it's just like a room sound, but we have a dry and a wet control that we can adjust. So at the minute it's on sweet plate, we've got wooden room, abandoned warehouse, acoustic concert hall, all kinds of different rooms. Just go back to where we were. Again, we can map that to our controller if we wanted to. So I have done that previously. I think I'll just redo it. So now I've got control of that plate sound from my keyboard. So that's dry and that's fully wet. So the difference is very subtle on some of them. But it does change things slightly. Now you can hear more there because it's a larger space. So it's sort of like a pseudo reverb effect. Then here we've got a master EQ section, and as you can see, again we can just drag this around with the mouse and change it however we want. It's very easy. And then we also have these up arrows here where you'll find more controls that we can again map to a controller should we want to. And same again here. So these are the individual volumes and pans for the 4 microphones. So there's still quite a lot of parameters that you can adjust if you want to dig in deep. And here we can change the reverberation room size and decay. We can also do things like close the lid on the piano. Just assign that. So as you can see, I've just assigned that to a control on my keyboard, and again, if I wanted to then save that map, I'd come up here and just click save, but I'm not going to do that. But again, you'll get a different sound with the lid closed. It goes to a darker tone. And as you can hear, there are some really nice piano sounds. Scroll through and we'll find a German piano or something. These are some of the uprights. There's a German one. So some lovely piano sounds in this. I'm trying to keep this video as short as possible, so we'll move on. We'll just have a look at one of the electric pianos. So this is the Stage 73, modelled after the famous Fender Rhodes. Really nice electric piano sounds, and we've also got a Wurlitzer electric piano as well, but I'm just going to show you this one. Again, preset browser with plenty of presets to get you started. As you can see, we've got effects here for phaser, delay, chorus, overdrive, a sustain pedal, quite how you'd use that with the mouse I don't know, but anyway, it's there should you need it. We also have this amplifier which we can turn on or off. So this is with the amplifier off. And this is on, and you can see we've got extra effects on the amplifier. So we've got reverb, and then we've got a tremolo. plus all of the bass, middle, treble, and volume controls, bright switch, things you'd find on a normal amplifier. Great addition. Again, we've got the extra screen here where we can adjust velocity curve and things like tone bar, resonance and pickup distance, the tuning, the damping, dynamics. Just, you can really change a lot of stuff that you probably would not have been able to do on the original Fender Rhodes. You have this switch here that switches from a 73 to a 74 model. You have either tone or bass boost, depending on which model you're on there. And this is a suitcase model, by the way. Absolutely beautiful sounding synth. No, sorry, this is the suitcase model. So, great piano sounds, electric piano sounds rather. Let's have a look at a couple of the organs. So here we've got the Vox Continental emulation, and again we can map all of these things. So sliders on my keyboard are controlling the upper drawbars. Again, we have an amplifier. The amplifier's got overdrive on it and reverb. So if we just, that's without much drive. But this overdrive's quite fearsome on here. It's more like a guitar overdrive. And then we have the reverb as well. So a very 60s sounding organ this. There's also another 60s type organ, the Farfisa, which was used by people like Pink Floyd and the Doors back in the day. Great organ. And again we have the browser, over 100 presets in here to play around with. We also have effects, as you can see here, and if we click on the name we can change that to, for example, wah wah. So very useful delay. So I'm not going to spend too much time on this because I'm trying to keep the video short. Just have a listen. Great looking interface this, by the way. As you can hear, you can get some sounds that sound absolutely nothing at all like an organ. More like a synthesizer sound. So don't be fooled and think that you can only get organ sounds out of these. There are tons of other sounds you can get. So we'll have a look at one more organ. We'll have a look at the Hammond B3. And again, by the way, before we leave, you've got the extra screen on here where you can adjust the individual tuning for each of the 12 notes of the scale. And you can also change things like vibrato and tremolo, rate and depth here. Background noise you can add. You can change the engine from Vox, which it's on at the minute, to Jennings, which will subtly change the sound. And you can change the key contact age. So again, absolute ton of features on here. You've got the bass pedals as well as the double manual organ. Another great emulation there. So let's have a look at the Hammond B3 organ finally. Probably the most famous organ in the world, the Hammond B3. As you can see, great looking interface. Again, you've got the organ, the Leslie cabinet, and up to 5 effects here. Again, you can change those, change the order that they're in, but we only have the 5 effects: flanger, phaser, chorus, delay and overdrive. But you can change the order and you can switch them on and off individually. Again, we can map all of these controls. Anything that turns red or purple we can map. So even the controls on the effects pedals can be mapped. Stunning keyboard. Very, very authentic sounding organs. This organ's been used in practically every genre of music there is. Rock, pop, gospel, you name it. One of these has probably made an appearance somewhere. You've also got a reverb on this Leslie cabinet, and you can change the type of reverb there. And again, we've got the extra screen here with more advanced settings. We've even got a sequencer, again up to 32 notes. So very, very comprehensive keyboard. Loads of features that you wouldn't have found on the original Hammond organ, like the effects and the sequencer, but just with the presets you will get some very, very nice authentic organ sounds. And again, you can also get some different kinds of sounds that maybe don't sound too much like an organ. You can hear that one's got a sequencer or arpeggiator assigned to it. Fantastic, this emulation. just go back to all types. So yeah, great. And don't forget, with all of these synths, pianos, organs, whatever, you can create your own sounds and save them. But you've got just a ton of presets to play with. Again, we've got 84 presets here just for this one organ. So you have plenty of stuff to play around with to get you started without even worrying about programming anything of your own. So I just can't recommend this software highly enough. It's a fantastic achievement, this by Arturia. There isn't a bad keyboard in this package. I've got the V6 package. They do different packages, but you can buy these individually as well. But if you're looking for an all-in-one package, you can't really go wrong with this. I mean, I use this pretty much all the time now, and I very, very rarely reach for any of my other VST synths. There are one or two that I still use because they give me a very different sound. But largely, if I'm wanting a keyboard sound, whether it's a piano, an organ, a string machine, or a synthesizer, I'll just open this package up and there's pretty much everything that I need in here. So it's just an absolutely amazing piece of software. So if it's something that you're in the market for, you're looking for, this is absolutely amazing. I wish I could show you all of the synths in the collection, but the video would just be so long it would probably take me a year to make it and get through everything. So I've just given you a brief overview in these two videos that I did. Part 1 with the Analog Lab, and then I've just shown you a few of the individual keyboards in this part 2. But that's the Arturia V6 collection again. Fantastic piece of software. That's the Arturia V6 collection. I wish I could go through all of the synthesizers with you, but unfortunately that would be a very, very long video, so I can't do that. But I'm sure you'll have got enough of an idea to realise that this is just a phenomenal piece of software if you're looking for some VST instruments, synthesizers, pianos, anything of that nature, or if you're just wanting to get into synthesis and you don't really know a lot about synthesizers. This is a great package to help you learn, because with the manuals that you get for each synth, it will teach you, you know, what each individual part of the synth does or is. It will teach you a little bit about oscillators and filters and LFOs, low frequency oscillators, all that kind of good stuff. So if you're a bit of a synth nut, or you want to be a bit of a synth nut, this is a fantastic piece of software. Now, the one I've got, the package that I have, is called the V6 collection, but they also do earlier versions like V5, V4 and so on, that may not have quite as many synthesizers, or may have the same synthesizers but older versions. And they also do other packages like the OAR package, I believe it is, which also has drum machines in it, I believe. So there are different packages from Arturia. All their products are fantastic. They do controller keyboards, they do MIDI controllers, all kinds of stuff. Great company, French company, I believe. They make some fantastic products. I'm going to leave some links in the description below for one of their packages or whatever I can find, and also a controller keyboard or two. So I hope you enjoyed this video. This was part 2. This was the final part. And as ever, if you did, please remember to subscribe. Give me a like, comment, share, and don't forget to click that little bell notification. But that's all from me today. So I'm out of here. Thanks for watching, and bye for now.